Hey everybody, it's Ref from Into Gaming. Today we're going to take on part 4 of the multiplayer interaction system, where we handle multi-directional, bi-directional doors, whichever way you want to say that. And the base principle here with our door is, let me get rotation on this, is a multi-directional door. When you interact with it from one side, it'll open one way. When you interact with it from the other side, it opens up this way. So you have that multi-directional swing, depending on which side the character is on and interacting. With that, let's dive right into this and get her hammered out. So first thing we need to do is create a new door state enumerator. So we're just going to duplicate our default. And this one we're just going to name door state 3-way. And we're going to change our value here to open inward. We're going to add another state, open outward. And we are done with the enumerator. Let's get back in here, and we're just going to duplicate our door, our base door. It's just modifying a little bit of the code there. And we're going to change the name on this one to 3-way as well, so we can keep those door states the same. Go ahead and compile this and drop that door out. We don't need it anymore. Let's go ahead and open up our copy. In this setup, we're changing a lot of the event interaction here, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that out of the way. I'm going to move this down a little bit. We have some room for the stop because we've got to modify up here. For the open rotation here, we're going to go ahead and delete that value. So let's get into our variables real quick. We need to update this to door state 3-way. Compile that, change the variable types, and yeah, we're going to have that switch issue over in the onRep. Let's go ahead and open up the onRep. Whenever you get one of these, all you got to do is boop, modify, and then drop this off, because we're having a different switch state assigned. So we can go ahead and switch that door state right there to the new one. Let's bring this variable up on top, and this is going to pretty much change quite a bit here. So I'm going to bring this down, duplicate that real quick, and then pipe this up here, and we'll get back to this in a second. I'm going to set up the rest of our variables. Well, actually, we'll set up the rest of our variables, set up the logic here, and let's change this to closed and this one to closed, and they will update. So we're good there. It's pretty much what you should have right now. So our open rotation here, we need to rename it. So open rot, let's see, what was this one? Inward. Open rot inward. We're going to right click on that and duplicate, and we're going to open rot outward. Let's go ahead and compile real quick, and we need to make sure, so our open inward, remember, was a positive 90, so we're going to go ahead and change our open rot outward to a negative 90. I'm going to go ahead and compile that. So now we can go down here and create one more. We're going to just duplicate this one more and call it lerp rotation. Lerp rotation, compile, and we want to default this out to a 0 value right out of the gate. Now we can drag our lerp rotation in and set it as B on this. So at this point, this is finished here. We can go up here at the top. We have a little bit more to do here. We're going to do a switch on the door state and get that in play. So what we're looking at here is our current state as normal. We'll bring this closed down here. So if the door is open inward or open outward, the only state that it can go to from those points is a closed state. Go ahead and duplicate this up here and get these two set up. Now we're going to go in and hit your blueprint interface real quick. Open that up, and we're going to add a new function here. I've already coded out this section here for the new function, and our blueprint interface trace, our BPI trace that we set up in part 1 and modified in part 2 has modified again. So quite a bit more advanced there. We'll breeze over that in just a minute, but we need to have this interact ADV event. Interact AVD has an input of tag and a type of name. Go ahead and compile that and go back over, and you should have this interface interact ADV. Go ahead and implement that one. Have to scroll out and grab that real quick, and we're going to go ahead and pipe that in. And now we're going to take that tag value that comes off of it, and we're going to reroute, and another reroute, and then we're going to go to a switch. And the option you're going to get is switch on name, and that's exactly what we want. We want a switch on name. So now we have our switch on name. While it's selected, we're going to go to our details for this, and we're going to remove the default pin, and we're going to add 2. We want inside, and then we want outside. 2 values, inside and outside. Make sure that you're staying case sensitive with this, because this matters. Compile that out. Now we can work with our states here. So if we interacted with the inside of the door, our inside, that new door state is going to open outward. If we're on the outside and we interact, we want it to open inward. Pretty straightforward. Bring this down, keep all of this nice and clean and straightforward. So this is what you should have at this point. Let me pull this open so you can see it. Pretty straightforward. So let's get back into that on rep door state function, and this is where we're going to modify our lerp rotation depending on which side of the door needs to be moved. And go down here and pipe this guy in, pull this out. Okay, so if we're opening inward, we need to assign the open inward rotation. If we're opening outward, we need to assign the outward rotation. And that right there is pretty much it. Bring these guys up. Nice and clean. And let's set up this. As I noted in the opening and on part 3 and so forth, well, I've been taking all of these and adding them to blueprintue.com. So you can pretty much copy and paste all this blueprint stuff and just set up your variables and so forth. So with that, we need to get back into the viewport, and we need to work with our interactions, our interact collision. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F2 on that, and we're going to do outside interact. I'm going to name that one outside interact. While it's selected, I'm going to go ahead and change the box extent size for the X to 5. Go to top view, zoom on this section here, and we're going to move that out to the edge of the door. So our door is here. I just want to move it out so it's in line with the door itself. It's touching. Now, while it's still selected, go up in the top and hit tag, and we're going to get to component tags. We're going to add a tag. So this is the outside, so we're going to add a tag of outside. We're going to compile and save that. Now we're going to duplicate this and do inside interact. With inside interact, we're going to move this one over to that side, and we're going to change the component tag to inside. Boom. And let's go back to perspective, and let's make sure that our open rot inward is set to 90, and our open rot outward is set to -90, and our alert rotation is defaulted to 0, our close rotation is defaulted to 0, and we are good to go. That should be it for that. So let's go jump over to the first person character and look at our trace, our BPI trace function. So this is where we left off with it. You can pretty much, just for simplicity and backup purposes, go ahead and select everything in your trace here, and you can just copy that, scroll down a little bit and paste it so you have a backup copy. See, this is my backup copy of the original. I'm going to go ahead and put a comment on it, and I'll put part 2 as my comment on that. So this is my original trace from part 2. That's good to go. I'm going to go ahead and compile it. This is the new trace setup. I'm going to push this off over here a little bit so we can start seeing it. So basically, there's not much that's changed in this. You can see most of the structure is still there. We're basically off the branch, we're popping in a sequence, and I use a sequence node to set 3 local variables. These are locals. I'll show those to you real quick. Our locals. Everything in this function, for the most part, is a local variable. So we got hit actor, we got hit component, it's coming off hit component, and then we're going to take off the hit component, we're going to get component tags and get a copy. Let's get a copy. If you're not familiar with that, get copy. You're going to get a copy, and then we're going to set a component tag variable. Back down in here, we're doing our validate trace hit. Nothing's changed there. Off the true pin, we're just adding that switch that we had before, authority, or so basically server or client. On the server side, we're going to add this branch here, and then we're going to take the component tag and see if the value there is equal to either one of these, inside and outside, and they are case sensitive. So they have to match exactly as to what you added here, outside and inside. They have to match, and that value there is also represented in your switch over here in your pin options, inside and outside. They have to match. Off our branch, if we have that collision tag true, we're going to the interact advanced. So we just go off there and type interact, and then you're going to do the interact ADV message, and that'll give you this one. And then you got to pipe your component tag in there, and pretty much everything else off of this is normal. So this will be on blueprintue.com. It will be linked in the description. So with that done, let's test our door out. Let me pull this up real quick, and boom. Since you've copied, if you copied your net door here, all the replication settings and everything should be set up correctly. So your class settings, you're going to have that BPI interact by default. That's how you get that implement ADV event. And as far as the class defaults, netload on client and replicates should be already set for you. So that's one of the cool things about using the doing a duplicate and just working off a duplicate. A lot less work, a lot less to forget. So with that, let's go ahead and test it. Pull this down. So if I remember correctly, this is the outside. So this is I'm hitting the outside, it's opening that way. I'm hitting this side, it's opening this way. So this is the functionality you should be getting. If I get on the other side of the door, so whenever I interact to open this door, it doesn't swing into my face. Unlike this one, which is your standard door, if I'm over here and I interact, it swings into my face. So most multiplayer games, fast-paced shooters, for example, they will use this type of door. So they don't have that door swinging into the player's face. There's less potential for clipping issues and so forth. So let's take a look at this in a multiplayer setup. Just for testing purposes, net mode is client as usual. We're going to do new Windows. And I got to drag this guy down and get him set up. Alright, so I got my guy over here. He's hitting the door. He's hitting the door. Hitting the door. It's good to go. I'm going to control tab and get my other guy. Bring him over here. Regardless of which side of this door, which interact you're hitting. See, if I'm on the outside of this, I can hit this and it'll still close. And see how that door went through and clipped? There's quite a few things that we can do about that. Let me open it again. See how it clipped through the player? It actually went right through them. There's a reason for that, because we're using CMC, character movement component, and we have that capsule. There's little things that we have to do to the doors themselves to actually help push the player out of the way. So we'll get into that in part 5. As with part 5, we're going to get into a little bit more of the netcode side of things, a deeper view at jitter. We're going to take a deeper view at net cold distance. We're actually going to explain net cold distance and actor overhead and replication overhead and a few things like that. And we're going to set up some new implementations in the trace and in our door setups so that we can't spam these actors. So for example, I can keep hitting that interaction, just like with this elevator. I can keep hitting it, and you see all those purples. Regardless of what's going on, I'm sending an RPC to the server. Every one of those purples is an RPC, and technically what should happen here is I should get one for the first, but while that elevator is in transition, I should not be able to send off another RPC to the server. So we're going to add a little bit more functionality there that will stop us from sending all these extra RPCs to the server when it's not going to have any effect. That'll reduce the saturation on the network and reduce your bandwidth, and because bandwidth gets expensive in multiplayer. So with that, as usual, have any questions on this, go ahead and hit the comments or hit me up directly in the Unreal Engine forums. Have a good one.